Welcome back as we broadcast from a very warm Durban this morning. I have to tell you, it is boiling hot here. Well, I think it's boiling hot. I suppose if you live here, maybe you're quite used to it. But it's compared to where we're flying from in Joburg, it's a warm day here in Joburg. I mean, in Cape. Let me start again. In Durban. I don't even know where I am right now. And I suppose that's what the world is going to be landing to as they come here, as South Africa plays host to this World Water Day. This particular day, the 22nd of March, was declared World Water Day by the UN many, many years ago. In fact, this is the 17th edition. And we'll see later on this morning, President Jacob Zuma is expected to launch this particular edition of World Water Day. And the development report is going to be at the key or at the center of this particular day as part of the World Water Day celebration. So we want to talk a little bit more about this particular report, and joining me now to talk about this is Stefan Uhlenbrook. He's the coordinator for the United Nations Water Assessment Program. He's also a director there and one of the delegates that's here in Durban. Good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Good morning, Leanne.
Absolute pleasure to have you guys here and hosting it in South Africa for the very, very first time. Of course, you've got expertise in water resource management and water assessments. The water crisis has not happened overnight. I mean, this is something that's been a build-up, and it's been happening in many parts of the country and particularly in the world as well. Talk to us from your perspective, what it's like globally.
Well, globally, it's quite dramatic. No? Over the last 30 years, every year we withdrew 1% more every year, and that's of course not sustainable. If the overall resources are finite and you take always more water out of the system, that doesn't work, And a large part of the water we just discharge back to the environment. We call it wastewater, and pollute the environment by that instead of seeing it as a resource.
Yeah. When we look at global warming, is it one of the key factors for water scarcity around the world?
It is. What we observe in our model simulations is that because of the global warming, the change of the climate, very likely the droughts and the floods, so always the extremes, they become more severe and more intense over the time. And therefore, it's also predicted in the future that will continue. However, it's not only global warming, it's largely also because of the increase in population and the increased industrialization, globalization, that our water demand is ever increasing.
So as we say, this has been around World Water Day since the 1990s. Has a lot been achieved? It's the 17th edition. What do you find normally comes out of these particular gatherings?
Yeah, well, these gatherings are very important for awareness raising, for creating political will and priority setting. It's not that this day necessarily change the world, and when you look at the water crisis, it's very complex. It needs quite a number of different activities. However, if you look at the Millennium Development Goals of the last 15 years, there were quite some achievements. When you look at sanitation, another 2 billion people or so got access to improved sanitation. That is quite an achievement. But on the other hand, there's still almost 1 billion people practicing open defecation. So that is, of course, not acceptable, and we need to change that in the years to come.
Which is a massive thing, because, I mean, when you look at the fact that 2030 is the goal that's been set as these development goals, and the reality is, and I mean, 13 years to try and change the lives of close on 1 billion people, get access to almost water to almost 700 million people. I mean, is it really attainable?
Well, it is. I'm convinced it is, and we have to. The cost of inactions are even much higher, so we have to invest. We have to set the priorities right, because it's not acceptable that we continue like this. And it's also really not sustainable. It will limit economic growth, it will limit societal development and polluting the environment. So we need to reset our priorities and really give more emphasis to do everything in the sanitation as well as in the water quantity and water quality issues to put the emphasis there and do the right investments.
I think the boldest thing to come out of this particular conference is, of course, or this gathering, is the fact that the theme of wastewater has been adopted. And I think you also said you hate the word wastewater, it's more used water. So let's, for the interest of our viewers so they can understand it as well, is talk about this used water, this recycling water. Is the solution perhaps in that?
Yeah, far too long wastewater has been seen as a nuisance, a burden that we want to discharge to the environment, get rid of because it's unhealthy, and just get rid of it, a nuisance. However, we need to change our mindset here. We really have to see wastewater as a resource. the water content in the wastewater can help to offset water scarcity problems, so water can be used for irrigation or for other purposes. On the other hand, in the wastewater you have many interesting byproducts, we call that. These are nutrients that are in the wastewater, very important for agriculture. These are metals that we need for our cell phones, etc. And there's also, because of the organic material in the wastewater, we can produce bioenergy from the wastewater. So it can really help to support energy security.
It's quite incredible, because I think as normal people, we don't necessarily think about the uses of water and what it can be used for. Automatically we think of the things that we selfishly use water for, but it's used for so many more things. And this is when we talk about recycling this water, use it all over again, and perhaps that'll help the situation. Is it being practiced widely or not widely enough?
Yeah, maybe not widely enough. There's different kinds of use, reuse, and which we think would like to see growing. The first, most important, is maybe in agriculture. Globally, only 70% of all the water use that we have is used in agriculture. So if we can reuse that water that is not used there, reuse again and again, that really helps. On the other hand, we can treat as needed. Now, not everything water need to be treated to crystal clear drinking water. If you want to reuse in industrial processes or as cooling water for energy production, there's no need to treat it all the way down to the drinking water level. But on the other hand, we can do that. We can do that up to portable level and then reuse it as drinking water.
As a closing note, and I'd like to ask this question on behalf of the rest of South Africa, we find ourselves in a very difficult situation when it comes to water shortages and droughts. In the Western Cape at this point in time, the water restrictions are massive right now. Is there a case study of another country in the world that has faced water shortages as South Africa has and has managed to overcome that, and they see themselves in a better off situation?
You have a few areas and small countries or cities where the reuse scheme really works. One example is Singapore, a small, highly densely populated country. In Singapore, huge water problems, even though it's in the humid tropics. But they invested over the last years in a reuse scheme, and they use it back as portable drinking water as well. And it was not only the technical solution, it had a lot to do with awareness raising and educating the public that it is safe to reuse it, and then instead of calling it reclaimed wastewater, they call it new water, which is a very good term.
I suppose it is, and also a good mindset for us to think that I'm using wastewater, and my mind goes to terrible places. So I suppose new water is a good way of doing it. Stefan, good luck, and thank you for being with us here on the program.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
it's an absolute pleasure. Stefan Uhlenbrook is the coordinator for the United Nations Water Assessment Program and is one of the delegates at this particular gathering and convention that's taking place starting today.